Yeah, the brain, I'll never understand it. Like I went to school for science and I still don't get the brain, but it's so powerful. It's like you underestimate how not easy, but like how quickly it'll learn with those affirmations and like just listening to that music or those affirmations, like it evolves to believe that.
So much is research is going into this new idea of neuroplasticity. We used to think the brain that you were like killing brain cells daily and that we weren't getting them back. And now, even in like the last 2 years, so much new information is out there, and it really is like we are changing our brains by meditating, by practicing mindfulness, by getting rid of the multitasking. We're literally changing our brains to focus on one thing, focus on it well, be less reactive in our daily space. Like meditation really benefits people. I always tell parents, like, it makes an enormous difference in reactivity, that your brain actually is less able to react in like more of an explosive manner and really react like, okay, let me think about this, let's come up with a solution, rather than the panic. And it's been shown on brain scans to show that you kind of go to a different part of your brain, which is so interesting. You literally change your brain.
Hmm. I know this isn't true, but they were saying like you use like 10% of your brain. I think it's more like 25. But where the hell is the other 85? Or did I do that math right? 75.
I don't know if they still think that's true. I don't know. It's changing all the time too. They're really, I mean, brain research is just like in its infancy at this point. We don't even, we're just beginning to learn about it, which is totally fascinating.
So exciting. So how do like let's say you have a bad habit. Let's say trying to think of one. You bite your nails like to the point where it's just down. As a kid, I was terrible because this is a sidetrack, but my grandma had like this stuff that you she would put on your nails, and if you bit it, it tasted bad,
Uh
so it would
huh.
stop it. I loved how it tasted, so it made it worse. So that's a little tangent, but let's say you have a habit like that and you're trying to get rid of it. How does mindfulness come into play when you're trying to get rid of that?
Oh, yes, I love this question. So people often talk about habits like they're bad. I like to think of habits as good because you have like healthy habits, right? But if you have a habit that maybe you find less good that you would like to change, every time that you have the inclination to bite your nails, let's go with that example, um, by being mindful and being aware that you're going to then, put your hand by your mouth, which actually during COVID times is probably a great time to stop, right? But but you feel the need to do that, you replace that with something else. So whether that's just, like it sounds weird, but like a snap of your finger, or something that would be like slightly more healthy, like just grab a glass of water and maybe you can kind of feed that need to like put something by your mouth. Just have a sip of water. Water is always good for you. It's nice to hydrate. But by being aware that you have the need to do that, you're going to then like you're going to be more mindful of it instead of just kind of doing it out of habit. So while you're like, say you're typing on your computer and then you're waiting for an email and you just start kind of gnawing on your finger, like you're thinking, you're doing, but you're also kind of like wandering off into this story. You're waiting for the email, but you're also have maybe your television on. So there's a lot going on. You're not focusing on what's in front of you, right? And that's often when people do things like nail biting or smoking or other habits that they want to quit. So it's actually by paying attention, by focusing on one thing at once and doing that thing without judgment, without any, sidetracking or going off into a story about something in your head. You really focus on that and you will totally be able to focus on like, oh, my hand's in my mouth. You're going to notice it. And I think just practicing mindfulness for a few minutes each day, it will translate and your brain will notice the difference.
I love that, like what you just said, just a couple minutes a day, because it sounds like such a chore. It sounds like so tedious when you're talking about how you can rewrite a habit or you can be able to shut down all those thoughts in your head. It just sounds so intimidating to say like you're able to do that because you just think that's going to be so much work. But if like it just baby steps, that's what I want to stress to people. It's just baby steps. That's so important.
Absolutely. 3 minutes a day to start, and then maybe add 1 minute a week. And if you get to 10 minutes, you're golden. You're good. You want to go to 20, great. You want to go to an hour, cool. And you have the time, sure. Or like split it up into sections, whatever you need to do. But 3 minutes a day, even if you did 3 minutes a day in the morning and then 3 minutes at night, 6 minutes a day of paying and really focusing on your mind and your breathing makes a difference for your brain, a huge difference.
Hmm. That so for the no judgment thing, do you have to do the same thing then when you hear that judgmental thought? Do you have to put that mindfulness into action again and kind of nip that in the
Yeah,
bud?
so if you're in a meditation and you're like, I'm having a thought, and then you're like, oh, I'm doing a bad job of that, just without judgment. So again, like if you're thinking, oh, I have to write that email and I have to buy that birthday card. Oh, I'm having a thought. And not like, oh, I'm having a thought. I'm doing a bad job of this. It's just, I'm having a thought. I'm having a thought about that, coming back to the breath. I'm having a thought, back to the breath. And sometimes it might feel really repetitive, but that's what it might be that day.
Hmm. My when I was first going to proper therapy, she told me, because I would have so many thoughts in one day and like my head was scrambled and like I would get overwhelmed and angry and anxious, and she told me to like kind of, when I'm feeling that way, she told me to kind of mentally pretend you're taking a step back and seeing that thought and going, oh, there it goes, as opposed to
Hmm.
living in it, which
Hmm.
helped so much because at first it felt so stupid. Like, because she told me, she was like, just pretend it's like a little monster on your shoulder and you're gonna be like, oh, there it is, and then it'll help. I was like, no, that's not gonna help, no way. And then after a couple times and kind of fighting that this is stupid ideology, like it does really help.
No, a lot of the most simple things. I've heard a lot of people say, like the little guy on your shoulder. A lot of really simple things, and whatever works for you. So again, like if that's stepping back and seeing that thought go off into a cloud and picturing, you know, that river with the water flowing and like placing your thought in that, or our body doesn't know the difference between your actual physical reaction, your fight or flight, your adrenaline, doesn't know the difference between the first time something happens and a memory, more or less. There's not very much difference in the reaction for the brain. So by maybe you have like a issue at work and then you bring it home and you're like, you want to tell your partner about that, so you can kind of relive it when you're telling it, and then it starts to kind of have that physical effect on you again. Your heart rate starts to get a little faster, maybe you get sweaty palms, your body doesn't know the difference. And then again, when you're trying to go to sleep, which is most people's problem, I find, or worse, you fall asleep and then you wake up at 2 a.m. And then those thoughts come and you're like, I should have said this and I should have said that. And that's what most people do. They relive it. But your body doesn't know the difference. Your mind doesn't know the difference. And we are in this constant state of adrenaline and fight or flight where you never get that down feeling. You never get that relaxation from it because you are reliving it and your body is physically reliving it. So it's really taxing on the body. So by doing like maybe a little bit of meditation and just kind of like feeling that feeling and being frustrated by it, that issue at work or whatever that was, or your feelings were hurt by someone, and then letting it go is a huge part of meditation. Like you realize it again, I'm having a thought, I'm having a feeling about it, and then let it go.
Does that come over time? The
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's probably like one that everybody is continually doing, right? Like, I mean, there's times where I relive conversations I have, and I'm definitely not a socially anxious person, but I have friends that have said like, I will relive a conversation from 3 years ago. And I just am like, oh no, that is eating at your soul and your body. Like, don't do that. But again, like then my telling them not to do it makes them anxious. So for anxious people, meditation is so great because you really can like realize it, and then you have to like kind of let it go, and you can not experience it through the body again. Like it's still in your memory, it's still there, you know what happened. It formed who you are today, and you don't necessarily have to regret that, but to move on from it is so powerful and so great for your mind and your body.